Hello, today is Saturday, May 15th, and we'll be looking at the 15th chapter of the first book of Samuel. We're continuing in our story about King Saul, and lo and behold, the pro-Saul narrator, is continuing on because we have this story of Saul being asked by God to fight against the Amalekites who are actual nomads. So they kind of make it seem like there's a town they could find them in, but really they're just a nomadic tribe. And apparently they weren't so nice to the Israelites when they had to come to the promised land from Egypt. So for that transgression, there is retribution, and King Saul, is in charge of the retribution, the retributive justice, if you will. And so all of a sudden we have, do you remember the numbers from the last chapter? I mean, they had like 6,000 maybe tops. Now they have 200,000 soldiers and 10,000 from Judah. Their numbers have just like exploded. So I guess all those Philistines join them, and then there's more, and they're all together. And so Saul's doing a great job unifying the people and going against the Amalekites. Now, this is where a lot of people have trouble with the Hebrew scriptures and the representation of God in the Hebrew scriptures, because God says to them, destroy them all completely. Man, woman, child, not just soldiers, and everything they have. Destroy it all. Let me quote it here. Do not spare them, but kill both man, woman, child, and infant, ox, sheep, camel, and donkey. So pretty explicit that everything must be destroyed. However, when they go against the Amalekites and they kill all the people, suppose, they take the king, keep him alive. I guess that's probably ancient Near Eastern practice. And then they take the choicest of the lost livestock and keep them alive and keep them for themselves and say, oh, we're going to make this an offering to the Lord. And they convince Saul to go along with it because Saul has this propensity, and we've seen this before, to go against what God says and do what the people want him to do. So Saul rejects God in this way again, and Saul is rejected. So the word of the Lord came to Samuel. I regret that I made Saul king, for he has turned back following me and has not carried out my commands. Samuel was angry, and he cried out to the Lord all night. And so I guess Samuel is conflicted about this whole thing with Saul, because before, he said there was one that has the favor of the Lord. And God says to Samuel that he will show him and anoint another king. And so so Samuel's job now, and I guess that's why he was, weeping all night with God. Samuel's job now is to talk to Saul about his rejection by God. And so that's kind of a touchy subject, I would think, for a prophet to come and have to come to the king that he anointed king and say, God's done. He can't give you any more second chances, Saul. You've done what is evil in the sight of the Lord. And so he said, no, we took these so we could sacrifice them to God. And then Samuel has this speech. It looks almost like a psalm, but Samuel said, and it's written out poetically, has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obedience to the voice of the Lord? So basically what he says in this little speech is that your rebellion does not, just because you want to do it for God doesn't cancel out the fact that you didn't obey. So you didn't follow the instructions to begin with, again. And so Saul is upset. He's like, please, don't let this happen. And when Samuel turns to leave, Saul reaches out and touches his garment and rips it. And this is a very familiar. He tore the garment, and Samuel said to him, "The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you this very day." So this tearing situation is a metaphor for what's really going on with his kingdom. Um, and then Saul begs one more time, "Let me worship God before the people of Israel, so that and they might return to me. They might know that I'm sorry for what I did." And so Saul worshiped the Lord. Samuel let him. He came back, and then Samuel said, "Bring Agag of the Amalekites to me." So basically, when Saul worships, that's his like last act as king, I guess, because Samuel has to chop off the head of the Amalekite king Agag or Agag. So Samuel has to do the gruesome work there. And then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house in of Gibeah of in the house of Gibeah of Saul. I don't know what that means. And Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death. But Samuel grieved over Saul, and the Lord was sorry that he had made Saul king over Israel. And I would imagine the people were sorry too. So our narrator changed in that chapter too. So you have Saul doing not what is good in the sight of the Lord. And we're moving on towards the next chapter, towards the next king. I think you know what his name is. He has a special star. Hope you enjoy your day and that you like this 15th chapter. Things are happening.